sun was merciless that afternoon. In the far-off estates of the Roman Empire, fields stretched endlessly, lined with slaves bent under the weight of labor. Among them was Elias, a broad-shouldered Nubian man in his early 30s, his back scarred with lashes but his eyes calm like still waters. From the veranda, the master's wife, Lady Marcella, called out for her 3-year-old son, Lucius. The child had wandered off. Panic swept the estate like a wildfire. The guards ran in all directions. The sun was setting. Then a scream. Elias dropped his scythe. He bolted toward the forest beyond the wheat fields where a wild boar was known to roam. Others froze. A slave's life wasn't worth much, but Elias didn't care. He found the child near the thickets, face to face with the boar. Time stilled. A growl. A charge. Elias grabbed a nearby fallen spear. With one powerful heave, he threw it straight into the beast's skull. The boar collapsed, inches from the child. Elias lifted Lucius, blood on his tunic, and walked back, limping from the gash on his thigh. Lady Marcella collapsed in tears, holding her son. The master, Dominus Varian, stared at Elias, but said nothing. That night, Elias lay in chains, not as punishment, but as a reminder, he was still a slave. Varian visited him in the dark stable. "You saved my son," he muttered. "But you are still property. No reward. No words of gratitude. Just a loaf of bread placed beside him." The next morning, whispers spread. Some slaves called Elias a hero, others feared he had earned unwanted attention. Lucius, the child, kept sneaking to Elias, offering figs and giggling innocently. The lady of the house began noticing. And so did Varian. In the weeks that followed, Elias was transferred from the fields to the stables, closer to the house but always under watch. And young Lucius? He called Elias uncle. Every day. 2 decades passed like dust in the wind. The estate had changed. The great Dominus Varian had passed. Lady Marcella had vanished into obscurity. And Lucius, now a grown man of 23, had left Rome to serve in the army. The estate, once grand, had fallen into neglect. One rainy morning, as the villagers prepared for harvest, a lone horseman arrived. Clad in a black cloak, armor underneath glinting faintly beneath the wet sun, the man dismounted and stood still before the old slave quarters. It was Lucius. But he was not alone. Behind him rode a unit of soldiers bearing Rome's golden crest. Lucius had returned as Centurion Lucius Varian, commander of a royal battalion. Not for conquest. For something else. He turned to the overseer, now old and frail. "Where is Elias?" The overseer hesitated. He was sold after your father died. Said he was getting too bold. We never saw him again." Lucius clenched his jaw. Rain mixed with his tears. Lucius entered the old stables where he used to play. Dust swirled in shafts of light from holes in the roof. He opened a locked wooden chest. Inside were toys, scrolls, and a small wooden pendant carved in the shape of a lion, one Elias had whittled for him. He remembered the deep voice singing lullabies in Nubian tongue when he had nightmares. At the bottom of the chest was a letter. Faded. Barely readable. Sold to the mines of Iberia, fate unknown. Lucius slammed the chest shut. "We ride to Iberia." The mines of Iberia were hell carved into stone. Men worked till their lungs bled, chained to iron carts, forgotten by every god. When Lucius arrived with his soldiers, the guards scoffed. "Rome sends men for gold, not ghosts." "Not this time," Lucius replied. One by one, the miners were paraded. Old, bent, broken. Until one man stepped forward, tall still, though age had carved canyons into his skin. Lucius froze. The eyes were still calm. "Elias," he whispered. Elias dropped his pickaxe. Lucius? Before anyone could speak, Lucius stepped forward and fell to his knees. You saved me. Now I save you. They returned to Rome to a crowd stunned into silence. Lucius walked beside Elias, not behind, not ahead, but equal. He marched him into the Senate hall. Nobles murmured. Scandalous. Unheard of. This man, Lucius declared, saved Rome before I could lift a sword. I owe my life to him. Therefore. He drew out a scroll of emancipation and land deed. I grant Elias his freedom, and the lands once owned by my father. Gasps. Some clapped. Others hissed. But Lucius didn't care. Elias said nothing. Only placed a hand on Lucius's shoulder. They walked out together, into the morning sun. Years passed. The land once filled with whip cracks now echoed with laughter. Children ran through olive groves. At the center stood a villa, humble but strong, where Elias lived with dignity. Lucius often visited, no longer as a soldier but as a friend. They'd sit under the fig trees and share stories. Roman boys called Elias grandfather. And in every home nearby, a statue stood, not of a conqueror, but of a slave who chose mercy over fear. He had saved a child once. And now that child had saved him, and changed the soul of an empire.